I worked for a lot of companies. I worked for contractors like on the Bay Area Rapid Transit in the 70s to learn about contracting. I was head of 23 of the stations with sound and trains, stuff like that. I worked for rental companies, but I always wanted to make sound equipment rather than just and buy it from other people and stuff. So after the Steve Miller, where I did Steve Miller on the stage, I mean, at that time, rock and roll was mostly done to the stage. In other words, everybody was creating the sound on stage, Grateful Dead as the power, and like at Monterey Pop Festival, the speakers were just for vocal, pretty much, maybe a guitar, but like the power that Steve wanted to create was for his bass and things like that. It's really a bad feeling when the very equipment that you buy lets you down. So I think I wanted to start to make my own equipment, but it takes time to figure out how to do that. I've been in the industry since I was a kid. I knew this world, and I wanted to do something different. And so I came home and said to Helen, we're going to start a company. And my patent attorney said he'd go in with me. He was an engineer. Besides being a patent attorney, he had his double E. So he felt like he'd be a good partner. And we decided we're going to set up, we had no money hardly. I mean, very little money. We're going to bootstrap ourselves. And Helen would take on the kind of business part of the company. Right. You know, so we'd split it up so we wouldn't be arguing. She'd do all of the administration, business, and all that. I was going to do the engineering part. So we'd split the company in half, essentially. And that was very workable because we have our own jobs, in a sense. Well, we made the first, when we made the HD1, which was actually a test unit for our building for analyzers, because we found it was too hard to get a person to sit or talk into a microphone and not turn around and talk away and just repeat things or read things and not move. So we needed a speaker that was very, very precise. We were at New York, AES, and everyone bought a pair. Adobe bought them, everybody bought them. We sold hundreds and hundreds of these things. We had no idea how we were going to make them. We were going to make 30 in our lifetime. It was an engineering project, research project for a few that we'd need. And we're burdened with hundreds of orders. And so that put us into our first powered loudspeaker, right? What I want to do is the next version is when we make powered stuff, we're going to make it so that it's repairable without having to send it back to the factory. Everyone has two jobs, their job and sound. Sound is a universal hobby, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody would like to tinker with it. So the one way out of that is to build it self-powered, because then it's kind of, it's pretty much done. You know, we don't make them so you can take one amp out of one speaker and put another speaker. So it was a lot to try to make it more uniform, is what a lot of the driving power was with all of that. Well, we started actually with the Grateful Dead when they were doing line arrays and helped them, and then we made the barrel speaker, the piano cluster speaker. Line arrays started to come back mostly with the French. They kind of brought line arrays back into the arena again. And so then we started looking at the fact that we should revisit the technology. We built the first kind of cardioid, very powerful line array designed to shoot really, really, really far. The company wanted to use it for these big million people festivals, all from shooting one place. So we went to England to this huge cow field. We all had to set up our line arrays for different companies, and we made it to the 800 meters. Nobody else did, because we were aiming for that. We were trying to see how far we could make it. But after that, we started to make something a little more practical. But we always started with something no one else was doing. And we've taken line arrays to the point now where we're trying to make them, for the movie people, back to point sources. So they like the sound from a point source. They don't like that line array type kind of sound. So the last product we built, called Leopard, was specifically designed so the movie people would use them, because behind the screen they sound like a single speaker. We did a shootout with the movie people and then we did a line array, and they like it coming from one place in the screen. They didn't like that kind of spread out sound. So we try to take it different dimensions, and we've done 2 theaters with it now, right? The one in Japan and one in
Leopard, and then there's Lena too.
Lena, now we've made a new version of it. So We're trying to kind of go back to the sound of a single speaker, but do it now with a more complex technology. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without high-powered computers and modeling. And so Leopard was the first product, I think, on line array on the planet that I know of that sounded like a point source, which you can behind the screen. You can't tell it from a single speaker. Originally, there was a company that was making, they had a parabolic dish and a driver and a horn, and they were shooting chirps up into the atmosphere, and then they'd get that chirp back and then from that they'd analyze the wind speed. They're also using it around airports to find when jets take off on a small airport like in Alaska, they leave a turbulence, a vortex behind, and it'll flip a small plane. So they're using it to chirp the runway to see if the vortexes were clear. But they were having a lot of troubles with the drivers. And I said, well, send me a dish and stuff. And it's a microwave dish. So we set up on our roof, and we'll run different drivers to find out. It's a pulse every 10 seconds, but very loud, full power pulse. Chirp, it runs about 100 milliseconds, so it goes up at chirp, and then it's quiet for about 10 seconds, and you get the receiving thing. What's interesting is it doesn't come down. We did this for months and months and months to get the driver to withstand this repeating chirp. But the chirp comes down in different places in Berkeley. It doesn't, when it hits with the wind, it comes down over here. Some comes back down, but some of the grain lobes hit other places because it gets shifted. Then they figured out how to do it completely with radar. So they didn't buy the drivers anymore, right? That special driver. We got a request from Japan in tents, when they do these big tents, that the echoes off the tent was killing the balcony. And they came to and they wanted a 2-degree speaker, a 2-degree horn. I go, I don't know, no one's ever made a 2-degree horn. So we take the parabolic dish, and what I want to do is now, the hard part is you got this dish and you got this horn, and at 2,000 cycles it hits the dish and bounces out. But now we're going to have high frequencies going to hit the dish and then come back into the horn, and it won't escape. So we have to figure out some way of solving that. So we work on it for a while. We finally figure out how to make the horn so it would create like a donut hole at the high frequency and then come out of the dish, and low frequency would cover the dish. So we went up to Tilden to try it. We got between two peaks. And she was on one peak about 1,000 meters away, and on the other peak, firing this thing, talking to her about 1,000 meters. It was pretty far away. And you said it sounded like someone was right in front of me, right? It sounded like
you were right there. You were just right in my head, yeah.
So we sold this to Japan for their thing, and it made the press. Everyone was just super impressed. There's all these parabolic dishes with this strange objects and stuff like that. So we started selling them to airports and long corridors and things like that. But it came from generally a request and some chance we think we can make it.
I mean, yes, we could have our own service department in a bigger facility, but the idea of a big facility would mean we'd have to leave Berkeley, and we don't want to leave Berkeley. We like being in Berkeley because Berkeley has a lot of advantages. Being close to the university has been great for us. We partner with them on a lot of our research, and we work with some of their organizations very closely, and there's a lot of good restaurants.
We just went out to Fox.
Yeah. Berkeley's a nice place. Yeah. We actually feel we've got pretty good productivity with our different departments, and people get exercise because they have to walk around our campus, and then there's this pride of ownership of each department, and we name our departments after planetary names, and so we've got Saturn and Phoebe and Mars, and everyone feels, if they're in Mars, they're proud of it.
When you go to campuses like Pixar, it's individualized. It's like it's kind of fun, and there are areas that they won't take you.
They're working its own identity, each little space. So.
We went to Germany to buy a high-speed drill press, and it's like they're proud of their environment. I mean, we have this sweatshop mentality in the United States that all that matters is getting things out the door. And I living in a year and a half in Switzerland, that changed us a lot.
I mean, the year that we acquired them, our sales went up significantly. And I think everyone was startled that we had acquired a company. They didn't expect us to do that. And it gave everyone a sense that we were serious about really embracing all the parts of the business. So when we took on LCS, we leapfrogged into the digital in a way that I think really put us sort of, put us on the map in that way, and it really affected us a great deal. I mean, it was a huge thing for us.
Yeah, I think
we've been working with LCS for many years, just collaborating with them. We were working on the same projects together. They would put their products in, our products, we would, and then the idea of joining forces was very natural.
They were known in the digital world. They were building stuff for Cirque du Soleil and stuff like that, just trying to get out to prove that we could do the same thing. It just would be it'd be more work than just saying, guys, why don't we just do this together? It's just simpler. I mean, I don't want to have to, I'm not sure that we could even sell the story. And this is a known thing. I mean, everyone would normally automatically agree that this would be a good move. If I try to do this independently, I'm not so sure we'd be successful. It's riskier, and this is a no risk, no brainer, and they wanted to do it because they weren't, we could be more, we were like 10 times their size, so we could be more forceful and the job's going correctly. We could took on the whole idea that if we're going to do these constellation systems, it's going to be the way we want to do it, we're not going to do it at all. The R&D 100 for sure.
Do you know about the R&D 100? All right.
It's an award given out by the R&D magazine. Every year they give out 100 of these awards out to the most significant things developed, mostly by national laboratories or universities. Gravity detectors, just weird, stuff with big teams. I said, what do we have to do? He says, well, you'll need an endorsement, we'll give you that. You need an article, you'll have to get that. And there's a 50-page questionnaire you'll have to fill out. I said, how much time we have? You have 2 weeks. So we called up the AES, and Cabot, I think, one of them was on the thing. He said, someone just dropped out, you can have their article. That's done. And the hard part was how 50 pages and 50 questions were going to help humanity. So we showed a picture of an opera house and how we could be non-intrusive and include more of the, without bugging the audience, we could use the actual sound itself and things like that. And we won. We won the R&D 100 out of 10,000 entries around the world. So that was really, really exciting. We've got a new processor called the Galaxy, which we've pushed the limits to 125 dB, so noise ratio, which is huge, way beyond anything analog could do. It's my new mission to get people to think, not go back to records, let's just do digital right. And that's a very good selling product. We're working with AVB on it. Digital is very, very important. Because we're not going to go back to analog. We're not going to go back to record. It's not going to happen. It's just, it's like going back to flash pots for photography. I mean, someone might do it, but it's not going back there. And no way we're going to go back from digital. And so we might as well prove that we could do it really, really well.
We are responsible for a lot of our whole staff, everyone who works for us, and it feels like a big responsibility. But we're fortunate because we have so many great people working for us, and they're all carrying the weight. We're all doing it together, so we're all moving together as a big team, and it's fun.
What we're always looking for is who's got the best idea, and then let's pursue that. Kind of like set the fact that it's not tradition. It's traditions. It's all worth reviewing, but if it's kind of obsolete, like records, I want to, it's like not interesting any. It's not. We're going to go back to do records. It's impossible. It's like kind of fun or interesting, but it's not. It's not something that a company like ours could undertake. It'd be a nostalgic thing. I mean, it would be silly. From my point of view, I'd much rather figure out other ways of going forward. And so we have the same digital team in Canada is one that built this new Galaxy processor.
Right. I guess when I look at what we're doing this year, our Summer of Love year, starting off in Amsterdam and going to on so many visits and going, all across the United States and Europe, and now we're going to Asia, and it just feels like this is it means so much to visit all these people that have been our customers for so long, and it really gives me a real sense of achievement that this is something we've created, and you really feel it when you go out. And when we went to San Diego, we visited the Old Globe Theater. They bought our system the first year we were in business, and they still buy from us. They still love working with us, and that gives you so much pride.